Hey, welcome to week 9, fam, of the FFFL. We are over halfway through the regular season by a couple games, heading right into the playoffs here in the next about 5 or 6 weeks. And this week, part of the hosting crew is Andy. Welcome back, Andy.
Thank you. Coming to you, well, somewhat live from my olive green room in Colby, Kansas. Good to be on.
What kind of hotels they got there in Colby?
Not real good ones.
Okay.
I mean, no bed bugs. Don't have to worry about that.
That's good news. That's good news right there. Well, again, thank you for hopping on the podcast. I appreciate it. I always love talking football with you, talking fantasy with you, and you know the drill. So we'll kind of get right in. And
Get
luckily,
started.
you were actually a part of this, but the ass whooping of the week goes to you whooping the ass of Case's Aces. I think it was like 159 to 102. So by a 57-point margin, how did it feel?
Well, I mean, it was nice to see the team score well, but a large part of it came from Justin Fields. I don't expect that to happen every week. I think he is on the trend up. I've been watching him for a few weeks, but that was an incredible game. 178 yards. Oh my God, that's not going to happen. Again, probably this season for sure. That's a record from what I understand.
Yeah.
And you had a
Well,
big week yourself. So, congratulations.
thank you. But yeah, Justin Fields looks good. And if that works out, I mean, he's got a great floor with the amount that he can run. He is looking good as someone who ends up having to watch a lot of Bears games. It's so funny. The fans here have just been ripping them, and as a unbiased fan, because I'll say they're my second favorite team, being in Chicago. I try
Right?
to tell him like the guy's good. He's just not given the he's not give he
You have a
wasn't given
Wi-Fi
the.
issue.
Oh no, I can hear you, Andy. Oh. Well, anyways, he's
Either
not
Greg
given.
is frozen or stoned.
No, so are you, Andy, and we're sounding like this. Here we go. But yeah, so what I've been telling the Bear fans, like he hasn't been given the opportunity to be great, to do what he does, which is scramble, run around, make plays. He's just good at it, and they have not given him the opportunity to do that. They finally are, and look what it's done. Look what their offense has now done in the past 3, 4 weeks.
Well, I think they kind of finally figured out how to use him.
Yeah,
Uh, quite frankly, and the only concern I have going forward is I do have Montgomery and Khalil Herbert as my running backs, and I think that could vulture them a little bit. But hey, winter's coming, and they're the top running team, and I think there's enough space for everybody. So I'm going to stick with them. Like I said, I'm glad I finally got rid of freaking Russell Wilson and found somebody, and then I backed him up too, just in case.
yeah.
I feel pretty good. It was a good week, but there were some good weeks by others as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that was a good stomping, and Case had a lot of buys to cover, which is always tough when you have a number of buys
True.
and injuries to cover. It gets to be tough to fill that gap. So that stuff happens. But our nail biter of the week, so the opposite, happened, and that was between Licho Logis and Bob's bandwagon. So Louis versus Bob, and Bob edged him out by about 7 points there at the end, but came down to Lamar Jackson, and what could Lamar Jackson do last night? And
Less than 20 points again.
yeah, and he started off well. I actually thought in the first half, I was like, man, if he does that again, because I think he had like 13 or 14 by half, and it just did not go well in the second half. I fell asleep, so I can't say I watched it, but it obviously didn't go well for him.
I did too. But yeah, the thing is though, Bob has Eckler and he's just been outstanding this whole year. And I have him on my other league and he's been a winner for me. That's one good thing. And Hurts could be an MVP candidate by the end of the year
Yeah,
if things continue.
excuse me. Yeah, he's playing great. I'm with you. I have Eckler in one league, and he started off slow. The first 2 or 3 games were a little rough for Eckler, and you're wondering what this season was going to be like. And then all of a sudden, he just turned it on, and every week he's getting 20+ points, no matter what league you're in.
Yeah,
So
it's
he's really
kind of odd because Herbert's struggling now a little bit. So, but
yeah.
I know his pass catchers are hurting, and Eckler's a big one of them and everything. But I wanted to demonstrate something for you, and I don't want to call anybody out, but there's some certain people that do a little shot this way, and they do this little tongue punch. They need to grow up. So, not saying names, but I'm just throw it out there.
Yes, that does happen. And
I'm taking that as my victory drink this week, that little bit, and then I
that's
got
funny.
later. So, not to interrupt you.
I have a feeling that is that person near your local area where you
I probably hang out with them a little more than most people, so I'm just saying.
Okay, pucker up is what he said, and it seemed like he may have puckered up this week because he didn't win. So puckered up a little too much. But on to some of the other games that we had on the week. I almost had the ass whipping of the week because I definitely laid a smackdown on Zach. 168 to 120. Basically,
And actually, I'm not trying to start shit here and everything, but I was interested in that game, and I was glad to see the outcome because I love Zach to death, but sometimes he needs to be put in his place.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm hoping Mixon did. Mixon heard the trash talk.
Oh my
He
God.
knew how he was feeling, and holy cow! I think Mixon put up the fantasy performance of the year. I think so far.
Okay, so here's fact. It's the 12th highest points by a running back since 1951.
Wow.
If you go back, they didn't play back then.
Right.
Fantasy, I don't think. But 2 of them, I had Jamal Charles put up like 59+ points and scored like 6 touchdowns. And then I had Alvin Kamara in 2012 that put up those 6 on Christmas, or might have been even more recent than that.
Yeah, it's probably more recent.
He put up 6 touchdowns on Christmas Day or something like that, and both of them won me games in playoffs. So yeah, I mean, Nixon's output that day was just incredible.
And he's
incredible.
And he's been consistent, but he hasn't been that. You know what I mean? He's been consistent, but in a sense, semi underwhelming because you never got this big game from him yet. And
Right.
so it's nice to see him go off.
You got 91.1 points out of your 2 running backs, and one of them was in the flex. So that's going to kill most teams no matter what. So Zach, please don't take offense. You just got your ass.
Yeah, it felt good to get a high scoring game again. Kind of to your point, feeling like what you did this week. It just kind of feels good to feel better about your team. I'll just say that in general.
Exactly.
Right? Feels good to feel better about your team. We had a couple others that were pretty good this week. One, we had another high score, Allison, field goal, put up 144 on Kyle, whereas he only racked up about a 107. And last week he had put up almost 150, so a little bit shy of it this week. But she had Kamara. I mean, Kamara's been doing well as of late, and I think that's really helped her out.
Didn't much last night.
Oh, Kamara?
Yeah.
I didn't see that. That's why I had this is on here. Got to be better at that.
Yeah, he had kind of a soft day yesterday. I think he only scored. Let me see. What was it? 9.5 points. Yeah, because I had him in my other league, and
didn't help you.
I mean, I still won, but I could have used him.
This is why I shouldn't fall asleep before halftime because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. The one I didn't fall asleep before halftime for was Devontae Adams. I mean, he went off for 30 plus by half, but then he didn't do anything the rest of the time. It was like an AJ Brown from the week before, like 30 plus by half, and then not much after that, which is weird.
Yeah, they. I guess I heard on the news today that they've reduced his for shoving that.
Yeah.
Photographer or whatever, they've reduced it to a city ordinance, not even a misdemeanor. So he probably won't get fined. Yeah. I was listening to
Wow.
that, and so they're probably not even going to fine him or personal conduct or anything. I would be shocked if he misses a game.
Yeah.
So,
One of the things
so that
that will I don't know who plays all we'll see later who plays Allison, but New England also put up 26 points as a defense. So that's kind of helpful.
and I dropped them last week because I kept Philadelphia because they'd already gotten through their bye. So you're welcome.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. But those are two great defenses. So I mean, Philadelphia's got a great defense. So you're not
I'm
missing a
not going
step
to carry
there.
two defenses, so you need to help.
No, but now New England's on bye. New England's on bye this week, so she has a decision to make as to whether or not she's going to hold on to them and just bring on another defense and drop a player, or what she's going to do there. So she's got a decision to make at that point.
She don't have no other defense, so she's gonna have to make some move.
Yep,
But she does have an empty bench spot, so that's good. But Ezekiel Elliott's probably gonna come off of the IR, so she'll need
yep,
to get rid of him.
yep.
So there you go.
Well, we have one more. So we had Suckaditka. They ended up beating Tyler 121-97. I will say Tyler got Kenyon Drake from that trade, and he had a good game last night. I know he helped me in one of my leagues. I was already up by 1 or 2 points, debating even just benching Kenyon Drake and putting Gus Edwards in like I thought he was going to play. But I played him, and I'm glad I did because he scored a good amount of points there.
Yeah, Drake did very well, but Gus the Bus is supposed to be back next week, so that could cut into him. But
Yep.
still, it was good, productive. I mean, that was probably the best part of his trade for this week. But
This week,
you
yeah.
know, I hate to say it, but you see a couple teams in here making the slide, and uh, Tyler started out very strong and everything, but his team's kind of starting to slide down. And again, I think the first time we were on this, we talked about bench strength, and that's what people really need to take a tough look at, because if you don't have it, you're going to start sliding down the standings as the
Yeah.
year goes on. And but I will say, I hope there's no domestic violence going on here, because we got a brother and sister fighting for the top two spots, and the husband and the brother-in-law is in the middle of that mix, and some of us are coming back up. So I just hope there's no, violence
Yeah.
coming out of that, because I can see Allison and Sam being two tough competitors, and I think I said that the first time I was on this.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
we
it's
don't want no
holding true.
Devontae Adams in up in here. All right.
That's all right. Okay, good for him.
But yeah, I mean, I know that Sam didn't score as much this week with his running backs and his tandems, but I think he had to play Eno, which James Conner was getting more of the run at that point. So maybe fading back into the background. So I have to make a change there. But he gets Nick Chubb back this week. So
Well, he had 5 players on bye, so
yeah, a lot.
he had a lot on bye, and he still won. So I
Yeah,
mean, he's a solid team.
he
Of course,
does. He has a
that quarterback Brisket, I just don't know if he's gonna make it. I don't know why you. I mean, unless you like Brisket,
going to be cooked too long.
that's right.
They're too long. I do like some brisket if it's done right, I
We
guess.
all do.
But this week we had a few injuries happen. That may have impacted some people, but not as many as it has been. I think the last 2 weeks we haven't had as many crazy injuries as we had, but a couple that I noted. I know with the Green Bay Packers, you had Romeo Doubs, who wasn't a major player, but I mean he played for Allison this week. But he went
Is
down
it
with a high.
Dobbs or Dobes? Because I hear both on the radio, and it's driving me
I
crazy.
always
It's
hear
Dobbs, right?
Dobbs. Yeah, I
Yeah,
hear Dobbs.
I hear both on the radio. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
yeah. I don't know.
Green Bay's
We'll call him
wide receivers.
Romeo. We'll just call him
Yeah, just call
Romeo.
him Roman. That's a good idea. But I'm telling you what, Green Bay's wide receivers are a wreck. That team, they're pretty much done. Put a fork in
Yeah.
them.
Well, and really, I mean, Zach is the one who's going to pay off with it because Christian Watson got another concussion, second week in a row. So guaranteed he doesn't play next week. Dobbs is now out. They're talking, high ankle sprains, 4 to 6 weeks usually.
Dobbs or Dubs?
Whatever. Romeo, wide
Okay.
receiver for the Packers, is out 4 to 6 weeks. So that leaves like Lazard. I mean, Randall Cobb might come back, and Sammy Watkins may become relevant at some point. But basically, Alan Lazard and Robert Tunyon, their tight end, that are he's got to throw to now. So
Yeah.
we'll see. AJ Dillon may be viable now because of this.
Yeah, Jones is hurt. I mean, there's some.
Yeah, because Jones did get hurt. Aaron Jones, he I think sprained his ankle too, but they were talking about it was mild. So it wasn't as he might actually play this week, but they might limit him at that point. Who knows?
Well, maybe Rodgers will go visit his guru and maybe he'll retire after this year.
Yeah, little peyote in him before the game.
Painkiller.
Yeah, one that actually hurts me, Josh Allen. We'll see how this goes. That could be. I mean, they're talking. He could either play this week and just play through it and be all right, or he has Tommy John surgery is out the rest of the year. So the guy just traded a haul for could be just out of it. Now I'm streaming. Such is life of fantasy football.
Okay, two things on this is after the supposed injury, he throws a 69-yard pass in the air, one of the longest passes all season.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't completed, but needless to say,
that's true.
He has a hell of arm strength, but yeah, they're not saying much. They haven't said anything on it right now, and that's kind of concerning because that's usually not good news.
No. So when they were supposed to get checked out today, and since I haven't heard anything about it today, that to me tells me that they are weighing a surgery. Like that's what he's weighing right now. Right. Does he want to do a surgery
or Russell Wilson's on the bench, just in case you're interested.
We'll get to free agent pickups and we'll see if he's in there.
Russell Wilson, he's out there.
Yeah. But actually, some other injuries I have noted here. Budda Baker for the Arizona Cardinals is out 2 to 3 weeks, and that really impacts their defense. They've been playing great. Like their defense, ever since Zach came on and was talking shit about Arizona being not like having these injuries, not being good, for some reason they heard him and they turned it on. They've actually scored double-digit points, I think 3 of the last 4 weeks or something. They've been a good defense, but Budda Baker is one of the main reasons that they are, and he's out 2 to 3 weeks now.
I agree with that, but they do have a good defensive line that does put a lot of pressure. So that's where it starts. So yeah,
that's very true. And then speaking of defensive line, TJ Watt, the defensive end or I guess you call him linebacker, edge rusher, whatever you want to call him, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, might come back this week, and he was Defensive Player of the Year last year. So that tells everybody how good he is at this game, and so they're getting him back, making their defense better.
That's not going to help their offense, so
no,
it's kind of a moot point.
No, in a way, it actually hurts their offense because now their defense is better, and so therefore people can't. Their offense doesn't have to throw the ball all the time now. Maybe they can actually. Maybe Najee Harris gets a little bit better. Who knows?
I'm going to tell you a player to watch out for because, I don't think Najee Harris is 100% either. Their offensive line's not that great, and I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves on some waivers and everything, but this Jaylen Warren could be a player later in the season, especially if Najee doesn't come around, because I think his foot's still. I think he has a more serious foot issue. When you get those foot issues, it really. Sam, tell us about foot issues.
Here, fuck her up, buddy. But no, you're right. I even have a foot issue right now. I'm not kidding. That it just hasn't gone away, and I don't even exercise a bunch now. Like I haven't been able to do much, and I work on my feet a lot, but hasn't gone away. To your point, like it lingers. Like they linger if they're not taken care of. So it gets to be a little rough. But
and your brother-in-law is a physical therapist, and you're not getting any help with that shit.
What? Yeah, right. I know. Sad. Well, he charges for that. Last thing I'm going to mention though is a return from injury, technically that can come off of IR, is Elijah Mitchell. Now CMC is in San Francisco, so to me, here's where I go with it: is simply do you hold on to him in case CMC is hurt? Like, is it one of those where you keep Elijah Mitchell because Allison has Elijah Mitchell on her IR right now? Would you keep him on your bench just in case of a CMC injury?
I would, because he is a very viable running back. They got rid of Jeff Wilson. I'm sorry, CMC the last 2 years has proven that he can break down.
Yep.
And and it's a violent game. I mean, anybody can break down at any time, but Elijah Mitchell, I'd probably keep him, but make sure she doesn't keep him when he's playable so she doesn't get docked 15 points.
Yes, correct. That is a rule that some did not end up heeding the advice of this week, even though multiple people tried to warn of the infraction, and it still happened. But
Well, you know,
we'll give them a pass this week, I guess. But
I give them a pass because I whooped their ass.
yeah, because
So
you whipped
yeah.
their ass. It didn't matter. You still got ass whoop another week. So yeah. So just so you're aware, Macy, you
Yeah, I
left
would
the
keep
guy.
him. I think he's a viable running back. And like I said, with the changes and everything. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to. I mean, especially with the San Francisco and the way they run the ball and how much they run it. I mean, you want running backs in that offense, and while CMC will run the show as long as he's healthy, in case he doesn't, you don't want to be the person that's left holding the bag at the end because you left the guy on in free agency. So sometimes you keep handcuffs. Like I have Alexander Madison just waiting. He's just hanging out on the bench.
Yeah,
You
he
know?
could be a starting running back for other teams, but if something happened to Delvin Cook, man, he'd be a
Yeah,
hell of a running back.
and that's why you hold on to those kind of players. So just so others are aware. All right, that's all I got for injuries. But before we get into the waiver pickups and those free agents, we had a couple trades happen in our league. One first I'm going to mention is player for crappy player back, which is Louis and Kyle traded. They traded each other. I think. See,
The
Louis traded
same player
away
back and
Clyde
forth.
Edwards-Helaire, the running back for the Chiefs, for Michael Gallup, the wide receiver for Dallas. And now they decided to trade those two back because apparently neither player was happy with the culture that the other owner provided, and they wanted to go back, I guess, to their previous owner.
I like that too. All right, let's move the sand pile over here. And then no, I really don't like it there. Let's move it back over here. So
That's how it
no
feels.
harm, no foul. I don't think it's
No,
killing it.
and I will say I'm sure Michael Gallup has talent. I think he showed when maybe he's healthy and he gets enough targets that he can do something. However, it's just one of those like I gotta see this man like more than give me more than like 3 games. Give me 3 games in a row at some point in your life. So and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, think about the first 4 weeks of this man's year, amazing, and then just fell off the face of the earth. I mean, I'm considering dropping him in one of my leagues. What's the
I
point?
just, I don't, I mean, Kansas City, and you see like Juju coming on, and you see Hardman coming on. So you see some of the receivers starting to step up and everything, but there's such a committee at running back. There's so many targets. You got Kelsey and everybody. I'll be honest, I don't invest too much in them. I mean, if I had Mahomes, I would be happy,
Yeah,
So Zach whining, you got Mahomes, but
and Kelsey,
the
which we'll
fact
talk about.
is there's so many targets. Who do you count on from week to week?
Yeah,
You know,
I agree. I'm
but I
surprised
think
Juju.
Pacheco is somebody to watch. I think I would hold on to Pacheco because I think as the winter starts coming around, I think he'll be better.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. But you're right, that backfield's tough to understand. They got 3 running backs that they kind of rotate through, and I think this past week they said McKinnon got more snaps than any of them.
Yeah,
And I mean, he had multiple catches. I think he had 6 catches or something, but not for very many yards. And he got like 8 total points in our league, and that was one of his best games of the year.
yeah,
So
but from a realistic standpoint, he threw not just one particular, but two excellent blocks, and that one got Mahomes into the end zone. So he's
yeah,
a heck of a player. He'll
yeah,
be out there. If you
yep,
throw blocks and you can pass protect, you're going to be out there.
yep, very true. And that helps him. And that helped him get. I think I had 8 targets as a running back this week. That's a lot of targets for a running back. So
Yep.
any of those guys could go off. It's just tough to guess which one actually would. But the Kansas City actually leads into our next trade, which is a trade between Zach and Tyler. So so Zach got Travis Kelsey and Latavius Murray, who he basically just put on the free agency.
Drop. Right.
And then Tyler got Taysom Hill, Raheem Mostert, and Kenyon Drake. So that's what he got back for it. Any thoughts on the trade?
Well, I mean, obviously Drake performed well, but Gus is going to be back, Edwards, and I think that's going to cut into Drake a little bit. I'm going to go back to my first time. I think Taysom Hill is overrated, and he has that 139-point game that has him third rated in, or 39 points or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But he's overrated and he's inconsistent. And yeah, he might have one more 20 points somewhere down the line, but he's not somebody I like or I ever count on. I don't use him. So I think that was kind of a weak spot. As far as Mostert goes, I think he's a good running back as long as he stays healthy. But, Wilson's out there, and I think Wilson's a better running back, to be honest.
And it seemed as though Miami thought the same this week. I mean, they immediately split carries. And you got to think Jeff Wilson just arrived this week and already splitting carries with Raheem Mostert. And so, Mostert being a key part of that trade, it just didn't work out in my mind. I mean, I definitely think Zach got the better end of it, and he'll tell us otherwise and how we're crazy, and he'll give us these bullshit stats about Taysom Hill being number 3 tight end in the league, even though Kelsey had a 5-point average. And to your point, you take away that 39-point game, take away Taysom Hill's 39-point game, and take away Kelsey's 30-point game. Now tell me where that disparity is, and it's even greater at that.
It is, but on his defense too, I mean, Tyler needed some help, and he tried to offer it. So
I agree. But I still think
I don't
Zach
look
is
at it
better.
that way. I wouldn't have done it, but Tyler needed help, and unfortunately, I think that's what I was saying earlier. Is you're going to see a few teams that started out hot and they're starting to descend a little bit, and it's probably going to continue.
Yeah, and like you said, Tyler's going for depth at that point, trying to get some running back depth because he definitely needed help there. And for tight end, a Taysom Hill works for you if you have a solid team around him, meaning you have a lot of consistent players that perform, and if he gets you a couple of those huge weeks, like that win you a week because your other players are always so consistent, that's helpful. Right. But otherwise, like he's not going to really help you a ton throughout most of the weeks at that point.
Get the waivers. There's some other options, I think.
Yeah, and let's get on to them. So for free agency, I mean, how I roll with this now, Andy, is kind of go through the positions and see where we can go from there. So I'm gonna start at quarterback. Any quarterbacks that you see in case somebody needs to pick one up this week, like in case Josh Allen, can't play.
Yeah, I would go for Jimmy Garoppolo, but unfortunately, he's on my bench, so you can't have him.
Okay.
Russell Wilson's still out there.
Yeah, I see that. I actually looked at a couple. I think Trevor Lawrence is interesting because he's playing Kansas City and he's going to have to throw against them, and so that's one of those where kind of like Andy Dalton a few weeks ago where he had such a huge game because they just had to throw constantly, even though he threw like 3 interceptions. He also threw 4 touchdowns, and
my problem with him is he turns the ball over too much, whether it's more fumbles than it is interceptions.
For Lawrence?
Yeah. That's my because I think I picked him up one week, but I don't know that I played him. But yeah, he turned the ball over a couple times, and I was just like, I don't like that.
It's definitely a tough one. Another one I noted was Goff. He goes against Chicago, and Chicago looked good in the beginning against the passing game, but really their defense has gotten worse. They traded away key players on their defense, and that's now a team that you can definitely throw the ball against. So Goff would be another one that I'd be potentially looking at if I needed a quarterback this week.
Totally agree with you there.
What about running backs? You see any running backs that you liked?
Yeah, running back's a little thin right now, and
this is what happens, right?
This is the time of year where it gets. I mean, you need a dart if somebody. Oh yeah, Jeffrey Wilson, he's a good one to pick up. Oh no, he's on my bench too. I'm sorry. Uh, so you can't have him. Jalen Warren from Pittsburgh, I think, is one that I would look at just because he, Najee just don't look right. And
Yeah.
when I've seen Warren, not that they have a great offensive line or great offense, but he runs with power and he's a good pass catcher. So I think he's somebody I know really there's not a lot out there.
No. I mean, I think Chuba Hubbard is one. If you need to play somebody this week, I think he should get some run. He's their pass catching guy, but who knows what's going to happen there? And then
Yeah, but I heard Carolina's going to the CFL, so is that going
yeah,
to
that's true.
count
That's
for our
like
fantasy?
Carolina. Yeah. And the other one I noticed was Rashad White, backup running back for Tampa Bay, just because, I mean, Fournette looks just awful. And I mean, I think they look awful in general, so it's tough to say, but he's a guy that I think could get more and more. I mean, he's already earned more and more playing time. And so Rashad White, the running back for Tampa Bay, I think could be another good
I think that's a great call because just the eye test on him, he looks pretty good. And,
yep.
And yeah, if something happens to Fournette, he's the go-to guy. That's a great call.
Next up, we got wide receivers. Any wide receivers that you're looking at?
Most of them are already on my.
Yeah, I'm sure they're on your team.
No.
Actually, I have that notated here. So
there's a couple of them that I would look at, and I just, I had him when he was a rookie, but Terrence Marshall from Carolina, big tall receiver. They don't really have anything right now. DJ Moore hasn't done anything, but then again, who's going to throw him the ball? But he's a pretty good receiver. And then if Deshaun Watson comes back in week 12, like they're talking about, that Donovan Peoples-Jones might be a good target for him. Another big, strong receiver that can get down there. So those are two that I'm looking at. I noticed on our waiver claims, Jerry Jeudy's still out there, and I think he's going to have a better second half than they did before, even though Russell Wilson's throwing him the ball. But
but they're starting to connect more on those long balls. Like they're starting to connect a little bit better on that. He's had two solid weeks before his bye week. He had two good weeks, so I think that's a good pickup as well.
So yeah, you better pick up Jerry Jeudy, or he might be on my bench before you know it.
Tight ends, want to mention a couple. You got Greg Dulcich out there. I think he's the number one tight end. He's also tight end for Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson throwing the ball, but he seems to be an athletic guy that just needs to get a few targets, and that's helpful for you. I also put Cade Otton on there, the tight end for Tampa Bay, another young player getting some reps, and with Cameron Brate, who's been injured a few times, and maybe they've already just going to lean on Cade Otton with that. And
he was on Cade Otton was on the sit list and still had a very solid game. I like Dulcich a lot. I think he's a good up and coming one. Another one, even with whether Mark Andrews plays or not, and I know he only had one catch last night, but I think this Isaiah Likely is going to be a good tight end coming forward, because he plays more like a wide receiver than he does a tight end. And he's fast. I mean, he had 4 targets last night and dropped 2 of them, unfortunately. But he did catch one for a touchdown. And but I think he's a good looking one. Even if Andrews comes back, I think he could be a good supplement. But
because they're gonna have to run. They're gonna that team itself with what they lost Bateman. I mean, Deshaun Jackson shows that he's an old man and is gonna tear a hammy. Already did that the first game back.
He's done it 14 years in a row.
Yeah, but they're going to have to run more 2 tight end sets, which if they're smart, they will. And that gets Isaiah Likely out there more, even with Mark Andrews, as you said, so getting some targets, which would be good.
So I think those are good ones. And I do like I said, that Dulcich, I think he's a good one. So
yeah,
I think pretty good. There's some tight ends out there you could play.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They're going to be hit and miss week to week anyway.
Yeah, I might take that approach next year to say no more Kyle Pitts. Just stick to the streaming.
Unicorn.
Yeah, but we got a few minutes left. I would love to get into next week's matchups. I don't know if you looked into it, but I got a couple matchups. I'll go through each one and I'll highlight the ones that I like, or maybe you can touch on them as well. But I know Kyle and I face each other again. So this will be the second time we play. I'm looking for the rematch, motherfucker. I'm trying to beat you this time because Kyle beat me the first time, and we got our trade. So I'm hoping Josh Allen plays so we can actually have all the trade pieces that were in it playing against each other and seeing how that might turn out.
Yeah, there's some good games, but there's some disparity, and the only one I really care is I want to beat Suckadicka.
Yeah, I highlighted that.
Second time.
Well, you're 5-4 and he's 6-3, so you're both winning records.
I know.
Yeah,
I could come up there with him
you could if you win.
if I win.
But Sam's won 5 of his last 6, and he has Nick Chubb actually coming back for this week's game, which is a tough add because in our league, I mean, those guys have been getting 20 plus every week, so that's a tough one to face off against.
Yeah, but all the people that are on waivers are on my bench, so I'm not really too worried.
That's true. And actually, one thing I did note, though, Andy, is that I think you have like one of the most dominant wide receiver groups in general, like top to bottom. And you might not think so, I guess, for some odd reason, but I think you got Olave, you got St. Brown. I'm missing your number 1 guy right now off the top of my head. Who's at the top of your list? Yeah, Justin Jefferson. 3 amazing wide receivers right now.
St. Brown, Davis.
Yeah, Gabe Davis.
The only problem is they're inconsistent. I mean, Jefferson's been the most consistent, and Pittman, Indianapolis. Oh my God, I may have to change my name. But if they don't start getting their receivers involved, they're going to go nowhere.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. Going to be definitely rough for them. We got a few other games. One other game that I highlighted was Licho. He's 4-5 versus Obi-Wan Mahomey at 4-5 as well. So Louis and Zach facing off. One of them is going to get to 500, and the other is going to fall further away from it. But I know, Louis, while projection-wise shows that he's under, he's got a lot of guys that outperform their projections. So I think that could be a really good matchup right there, more than the projections show, at least.
Well, yeah, like I said, I don't want to call anybody out, but I hope Louis does well.
I know Tyler and Allison face off this week. Both have winning records, but Allison has been stomping some people, and she's got a good team. So she's
got the strongest team, I think, of anybody right now.
Yeah.
It looks like she could beat him with 8 players compared to 9.
The last one I'll highlight: Case's Aces facing Bob's Bandwagon. Both are under right now, but Case's Aces got a tough decision between quarterbacks, so they got to choose. They got 3 QBs. They got to choose one and figure out who's their guy going forward. So we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think they need to win really